If you are new to this channel, please subscribe and don't forget to like and comment. Today's first story. Should I give up on this short relationship? Hi all, first time posting here. I'm looking for some advice. A bit of background on myself. I'm mid-20s, female and live in the UK. I've had a few relationships in my life, none have lasted longer than a few years, which is fine. Over the last 2 years I've worked hard to build up a new career and build better habits, less binge drinking, regular exercise, because I really do feel like working on yourself is important. I have diagnosed depression and anxiety, but have really gotten the control over this for the last 2 years. I've always felt I've had issues when it comes to dating. I don't get very easily attached to people at all, and during my early 20s, used to fixate on this as I believed I would never want to be with someone long term, because of how often I lose interest in the romantic part. When discussing with others, I was told often that when the right person comes along it would work. I decided to go with the flow, meet lots of people, and see what worked. Back in early October I met a new guy, M28, on a dating site. We met when there were still restrictions in place and could go to a couple of restaurants. Since December, there have been stricter rules and hospitality started closing. We have had a full lockdown since beginning of January with only essential shops open. Myself and my now ex went to a restaurant and the cinema on the first few dates, but since then we've only been able to stay indoors. He lived on his own, so he was able to bubble up with my household and allow hanging out to be completely within the government COVID rules. I live with my parents, currently saving for a house. He has met my parents a few times and they all get on. For our dates we mainly watch films, box sets, we also would play games and go on short walks. He is very nerdy, which I love, and I like the fact that he brought out my nerdier side. He seemed very interested for the first 3 months and we always had a great time together. There were virtually no issues and I would look forward to our weekends spent together after the working week, both work stressful jobs. Around Christmas I could feel myself getting deeper feelings, and I felt positive about the relationship. I was very happy, and he seemed it too. Then January hit. Those not familiar with the UK, the winter has been very bleak, with Christmas essentially being cancelled last minute and infection rates being through the roof. We've had one of the highest death tolls. The third lockdown hit in January and has hit everyone hard. I found my ex's demeanor changed. Although we continued seeing each other, the way he spoke to me through messaging changed. He would no longer be affectionate through messages. In real life he was very cuddly, and we still had good etc. I knew he was having a hard time at work, because January is his industry's busiest time. I gave him space, but tried to cheer him up by cooking meals, watching his fave films etc. It was like he lost his mojo. His diet started slipping big time. He would have takeaway multiple times a week, and started saying he was struggling to find motivation to cook and clean. He even said he'd struggle to find a game to play. He's a big gamer. I asked if he'd spoken to his family members, and he said not for a while. I encouraged him to reach out to his sibling. I was worried he was lonely on his own. It all came to a bit of a head last week. I felt he has lost interest for the last 3 weeks, and I'll be honest, the lack of input from him and the lockdown has caused my anxiety to heighten as I'm worried about the relationship. We made plans for this weekend, and on Friday he said he wanted to spend the weekend alone. I said we should have a conversation after work and he agreed. I rang him and basically said that I wasn't happy. I had brought up before that he wasn't giving enough back. I was not annoyed about this at all, just needed to be honest. He admitted that he doesn't know what has happened, but he suddenly feels numb to it all. I suggested that we take a break, because right now I think we need to focus on individual selves and trying to get through the pandemic. I told him once everything opens up again we can perhaps meet up for a catch up and see how things go from there. I said that it seems that either the relationship isn't right for him or the pandemic has kind of got in the way because it's hard not to get into a rut when you can't leave the house and you've got nothing else stimulating the relationship, if that makes sense. He said he agrees with everything I've said and he needs some time to sort himself out. I'm putting the ball in his court and giving him space. Have not contacted him, although he said we could still talk. I'll be honest, I still hold out hope. I don't want to seem naive and miss the very obvious hints that he just isn't into me. I only want him to be happy, and if I don't make him happy I fully accept that. I'm worried he's a bit depressed. Would it be stupid of me to give him time then contact him further down the road? It's such a short relationship, but I just feel like there was so much potential, and I have not felt that about anyone before. Sorry for such a long ramble, I'm just feeling so isolated at the moment and even just writing this has been cathartic. I've spent the weekend crying and watching TV because I keep thinking back to happy times. TLDR, boyfriend seems to have become numb to new relationship after really good start. Not sure if because of difficult external pressures causing depression or because he's just not that into me. Willing to give him space, but don't want to look stupid. That's the end of first story. If you guys not subscribed yet, please subscribe. Let's start the second one. My 29F husband, M32, is overly obsessed with our daughter. Throwaway because my husband knows my username. I have hesitated to bring this up because on paper it sounds really stupid. Before she was born, people had told me stories of men getting jealous of their wives giving so much attention to the baby. I never thought it would be the other way around. Our daughter is 1.5 years old, our only child so far, and both my husband and I love her to pieces. However, since being born, she has become my husband's entire identity. In a way it's really sweet, but it's gotten to the point where she all he ever thinks or talks about. In the year and a half since she's been born, we have not left the house together, just he and I, not once. Whenever I have suggested that we go anywhere without her and leave her with her grandparents for a little bit, he looks at me like I'm insane and will usually say something like, "Why would you want to go anywhere without her? I would just be missing her the entire time, wishing she was there." I mean, I love her too, but I also miss spending time with my husband. I don't think that feeling is reciprocated. Even when we are hanging out and having a conversation, after she's gone to bed, he will almost always steer the conversation back to our daughter and wonder if she's too hot, too cold, talk about everything she did that day. He will scroll through her photos and videos until it's time for us to go to sleep and will constantly say things like she's my everything or she's the only thing that matters to me. Normally the sentiment would seem cute at face value, but this actually seems to be literal with him. It's almost like if I dare to want to have a conversation or to do something that doesn't revolve around her, he thinks I'm being selfish. I don't think he really sees me as anything more than our daughter's mom anymore. I feel like I'm losing my partner and best friend. He's become a judgmental helicopter dad. I have even noticed that when he talks to his friends, she is all he talks about. At this point I'm sure they are tired of it too. One thing to know is that during my pregnancy, he developed an alcohol addiction because he was so stressed out about becoming a father. Lots of childhood stuff to unpack there. It all culminated into him having to go seek help and not being there for the first 3 weeks of my daughter's life. He's been sober ever since, but this affected him very deeply in that he's had to deal with immense shame and guilt for missing those first few weeks. Because of that I kind of understood his zealousness at first, because I knew he was trying to make up for lost time and to prove his devotion. But it's been 18 months since, and he's still as over the top as ever. How do I get him to take a step back? I don't know how to tell him I'm feeling a bit neglected because of your obsession with our daughter without sounding insane or like I'm being immature and jealous of a baby. TLDR, husband has made his entire identity about being a father at the expense of our relationship. He does not see the value in spending time with me apart from our daughter. At first I thought he was making up for missing the first 3 weeks of her life, but his zealousness has not let up at all in the 18 months since she's been born. I don't know how to make it stop. Best comment for this story. You can simply say I'm feeling neglected and I miss spending quality alone time with my husband. You don't have to say, because you're obsessed with our daughter, which is guaranteed to put him on the defensive. If he balks, or tries to blow you off, or does anything besides listen attentively and talk with you about how to fix this, follow up with I want us to have a relationship with each other outside of our roles as parents. If you don't agree, we need to bring this to a marriage counselor, because I'm not willing to spend years waiting for my husband to notice me again. I'll let you know when I've found someone.